How you guys doing for the Ravori Sports conversation? Like and subscribe to all of our social media content. This is Charles. I'm the owner CEO of Ravori Sports Media, Ravori Sports website, and Ravori Sports blog. So definitely too, we put out content every Wednesday night on the Ravori Sports podcast. That's every week. You can also find me on the Driving to the Top podcast as well, Driving to the Podcast Network as well. We're happy to go ahead and do that for you. Definitely to check out the blog every morning. It's there. Try and get it at 6 a.m. Sometimes it's a little bit later, but we do like 1,000 words every morning. So definitely check that out as well. We're going to be having on Apple Podcast, the Ravori Sports Podcast, coming up shortly here when the football season starts, and live on Instagram as well for the first time during this football season. NFL preseason predictions on the 20th. On September 6th, that's the Sunday before the first game. So definitely check that out as well. Maryland football preview. Maryland's got a lot of starters coming back. Malik Washington, very impressive as a freshman last year. Legal Shield, definitely check that out. See Charles Harris, Legal Shield. Check us out on Facebook, Great Value, and Genesis Notary Services at facebook.com for the Winchester area. And we got grown folk in here. The grown man of the Driving to the Top network. I don't know why. Like last year, when I was doing interviews with, I said I kind of had in mind for whatever reason, Adam is one of towards the end, and I kind of had the same thing with you towards the end, whatever, to kind of like this. So Joe Dalio is here from New York Sports, all things New York Sports here. Off camera, I won't say the age, but you were actually older than I thought you were. I thought you and I were actually closer to the same. Look how good he looks as well for a grown man.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm doing great, thank you. And Charles, I respect the work that you do. And again, I say we've been on a few shows together here. We seem to think along the same lines. So I'm honored that you asked me to be on here tonight. And again, as I said backstage, I appreciate the fact that you didn't call me old man. A grown man is a title I could certainly work with. Although, again, I don't feel my age, thank God. But again, I appreciate the kind words there. And again,
you look in better shape than me, man. I'll tell you, you get in the gym and you probably do some running. Yeah, you look better than me. I'll tell you.
Golfing is the thing. I played 18 holes today. I guess I got my energy from that. and that I feel like a yellow jacket here in Buffalo, New York. You only get like a very short stint of summer. So you know how yellow jackets this time of year, they go crazy because they know their time is limited. I guess I feel that way now as I'm spending as much time and doing as much as I can outside before, we're shut down for the winter here, which sneaks up on us very quickly.
Not that I was supposed to get on to, but like I could not believe I only went to Buffalo once like 20 years ago, and man, I couldn't believe how cold it was in the summer in Buffalo. Like not cold outside, but like chilly at night, like in the middle of July, August. Like it was cold. I mean, really in Buffalo, I couldn't believe how cold it was.
It's cool, and I'm not from this area originally. I'm from the New York area. We'll talk about that, I guess, but I say I diss the weather here all the time, and I'm not a big fan of the cold. However, I will say from about Memorial Day to Halloween, there's no better weather in the country than right here. I mean, we do get summer, it gets a little hot, but like you said, I've done some of my podcasts outside just because of how beautiful it usually is. So we do have that luxury, here. Again, it doesn't last too long, but at least we have it this time of year.
All right, Joe, the talked about it off camera. The Knicks, first time in forever here. The great Mike Breen said, "This is not a dream, Knicks fans. The Knicks have won the NBA title." I mean, how many movies have been made or whatever about the Knicks is whatever. What did you think about the Knicks this year? Came real close last year, fired the coach. I was surprised. I wasn't for the firing Tom Thibodeau. But this year, bringing in Mike Brown, and it worked. I mean, hey, they got all the way through. What was your assessment of the Knicks this year?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a newbie with the NBA. I shared this off stage too. I've been following college basketball forever, but only maybe since, the early 2010s have I been an NBA fan. And of course, when I chose a team, being from New York, I went with the Knicks. So looking into this season, again, I thought they had a solid team. I thought they were good. I thought they would finish in the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference. But I really didn't think that they were going to be a championship team, never mind an Eastern Conference championship team. If somebody would have asked me, do they have a chance? I would have said yes. I don't know how high of a chance that is. And you were talking about Tom Thibodeau. I disagreed with the firing last year, too. I thought they gave him an unfair shake there. But it's like, I something tells me this team knows what it's doing. And maybe this move will, have excellent benefits. And as things were going on, 3 games into the playoffs, it's like, oh my goodness, this might end quicker than we thought. They struggled a little bit.
Hardly lost a game. Like the whole play.
Yeah, because I think they lost the first 2 out of 3 to the Hawks there in the first round. And then they were just unbeatable. Historically unbeatable pretty much from there on. They hit a couple of bumps and, 2 amazing, 20-plus point comebacks, in which, by the way, I missed both of them. I usually get to bed early. For NBA playoff games, I would stay up, but I was frustrated. I was like, they're losing by 20 points. There's no use staying up. The one to the Cavs then the one to the Spurs. I missed them both. But, even when they were behind in games like that, they found ways to win. And, as we were getting into this series, the fact that they weren't playing the Thunder in the finals, not taking anything away from the Spurs because they're definitely an up-and-coming team and could have easily won the series too. But I felt good about their chances against the Spurs. And as that series played out, that materialized. And I still, it's 2 months now after this happened. And I still wake up some mornings and think, did it really happen? Are they champions or did I miss something? So I'm very happy about that. And, we talk about it with other Knicks fans. It's like, and again, we talked about my age here and if they never win again, I'm satisfied. Okay. Now, can they win again this year? Sure. Can they win in the future? Sure, hopefully. But if I never get to see them win another one, I'll savor this one forever.
Nothing wrong with that. You mentioned college basketball, so I know the St. John's, not quite a title, but is Rick Pitino, cementing himself as one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time. This guy look. Nobody ever thought he'd even coach again. He kind of keeps grinding in the underground until he gets back to St. John's. And I think that they could be, top 5 coming up in this college basketball season. Just what you think about St. John?
Definitely resurrected the program. Now, I'm actually a Syracuse fan. Even when I lived on Long Island, I don't know what it was. I followed Syracuse and still today, as insignificant as they've become. But to talk about St. John's, I had some friends from high school and ended up playing for Lou Carnesecca back, in the day. But really, they've been insignificant pretty much since then. And, I give Rick Pitino a lot of credit for turning that program around and bringing them right back where they were almost, 35 years ago now or whenever it was. But bringing them back to national prominence. And every year it seems like going into a season where you talk about potential tournament champions, I think you got to put them on the list.
And it's funny, you mentioned Carnesecca, Raleigh Massimino, the big John Thompson. Pitino was the last one left from that area, coincidentally, at Providence long time ago as a young coach. And now he's here back at St. John's. Resurrected. So I think that's unbelievable. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right back in the Big East, which I'm still angry with college football for kind of ruining my Big East, and against Syracuse now in the ACC, where they've completely fallen into mediocrity, as I thought would happen with that and with Jim Boeheim retiring. But I'm not going to whine about that. Still, ironic that's where Pitino ends up. And again, bringing a Big East team back to prominence where they haven't been for a long time.
Yeah, man. Let's get to your Mets, man, this year. As far as that goes, I'm still amazed, even now. I think we talked about this before. That why on earth would they let Alonso go? It was unbelievable that they let Alonso go. Hasn't went the way of the Mets this year. Soto's been still pretty good. Offense, but the pitching has just really fell off. What's the biggest problem right now, would you say, with the Mets? Because they certainly have spent money in the last few years trying to fix it.
Yeah, they spent money the wrong way. I think that's the biggest problem. Now, I always said in the beginning of the season, just this team played with absolutely no heart. I don't know what it is. There's rumblings that Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto didn't get along. And, Lindor was the heart and soul of the team and then was disheartened, once they brought somebody else in, that kind of took that title away from him. And he's been kind of heartless ever since then. But just the biggest problem with this team, especially in the beginning of the season, was just a lack of heart. And, maybe you could allow for some time with these different pieces that they put together. But I just think they spent the money the wrong way. Now, you talk about Alonso. I loved Alonso. I still do. And I hope he succeeds. And he seems to be getting better and better now with the Orioles. I was definitely disappointed to see him go, although I did understand the logic of it. But really, he was the heart and soul of the team. Brandon Nimmo was the heart and soul of the team. Jeff McNeil, even though his production had dipped, he was a hustler and heart and soul. So the problem is that not getting rid of somebody like Alonso, but getting rid of the heart and soul of the team. Even if this team was winning every game, playing like that, it would be heart-wrenching to watch. I couldn't watch it. I say this all the time in sports. I could follow a team that loses every game, but if they play hard and if they entertain me, then I'll watch every game. But if a team is not playing, with heart and soul, win or lose, I'm not interested. Again, I watch sports to be entertained, and this team was just the first entertaining. Now, kind of ironic that since the trade deadline and they went through this whole fire sale and they've gone with some of these younger players, I feel like all of a sudden that heart and soul is returned. And look at what's happening. They're winning more games than they're losing. So they still have a long way to go. But I've probably watched more Met games in the last couple of weeks than I had all season before. Now, granted, there was other things going on to get my attention, a Knicks playoff run, a World Cup soccer tournament going on that had my attention. So really those things, I think even if the Mets were winning, probably I would have been paying more attention to anyway. But again, I'll watch this version of the Mets definitely over the first 3 months version of the Mets.
I think you hit it dead on the head when you talk about losing their heart. In general, a lot of the trades they made didn't work there as well. The Simeon thing, I didn't like that when they did that. When you talk about losing Pete Alonso, the Lindor Soto thing I hadn't heard before. That I was kind of thinking about the whole Derek Jeter A-Rod thing that kind of never did really. I think Jeter kind of always found upstaged by A-Rod and vice versa, if there's that. So you think it was kind of that type of deal with those two? Because it's certainly as talented as they are. I mean, they should be killing, MVP conversation in terms of if these guys are at their best.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it ever got too intense. I mean, it was just there was a tension there. And I guess that tension affected the whole team. And again, the main thing that I saw was Lindor being disheartened because, again, it got to a point. It took him a year and a half or so to adjust to playing in New York. He played for Cleveland, and that was his team kind of, and he was the heart and soul of that team for a few seasons, playing in the World Series with them and everything. And then coming to New York, he got the big contract, and it was an adjustment, and there was pressure. And it took him a good year and a half. But by 2024, there was no question that this was his team, and he was the leader of it. And he was a MVP candidate when they made that run to the league championship series. And now to have somebody come in that he had no control over, and again, I don't blame Juan Soto. I'm right. If somebody offered you something like that, I think we'd all take it.
So insane amount of money he's getting. I mean, just insane.
It's too much. Even Lindor, his contract was too much, in my opinion, too. But that's neither here nor there. But I think Lindor was disheartened because now you're not the leader of this team. And, it's going to be harder to put this team on your back when you got another guy here that's being paid more than you and supposedly being relied on more than you now, and a totally different personality, too. Lindor's got that very, optimistic and I'm trying to think of the word here, but just a very enthusiastic kind of personality. And again, not to take anything away from Juan Soto, because he certainly lets the bat do his talking there. And he was having a MVP type of season. He wasn't going to get it because of where the Mets were in the standings, but he was right up there in with those players for a little bit. But it's a different personality, and he's not that kind of, I guess, leadership and positive leadership person as Lindor.
I kind of see him as the new Reggie Jackson. He's the mercenary. He's the guy, he took the big check. He's going to hit the home runs. He's going to give you the production, but he's not necessarily, like a Lindor, like the team first type guy. Mm-hmm. I think the Orioles and the Yankees Orioles and the Mets rather have as far as on the list as the greatest managers they ever had. One of them, the same guy, the late Davey Johnson. Who would you like to see become the next manager of the Mets? As far as anybody that you would like now, because that's a lot of the older managers are gone. I mean, as far as that goes, the name that's coming up in Baltimore is probably, I'm sure, is coming up in New York. Buck Showalter, maybe looking to get back behind the dugout.
Yeah, that's a great question because I haven't really thought too much about it at this point. It looks like their current interim manager is not coming back. Not because he's not doing a good job. I think he is. And I think a lot of Mets fans would tell you the same thing. I don't think he's interested, if you want the truth. But the name Alex Cora keeps coming up. I think he'd be a good fit. I mean, he managed the Red Sox, which is a tough environment. Again, baseball being one of the main focuses there, and the media not the easiest to deal with in Boston. So I like Cora because he's proven himself. He can work with veteran players and young players, I think, and he's worked in pressure environments and been successful. So that would probably be the number one person that I would say that I would want as a fan to come in there.
I definitely think Alex Cora is very underrated as a manager as well. I definitely think, though, they should consider Buck. I don't know if he would take it, but I think they should consider Buck because I think he can fix just about most places that you go as well. Last thing on baseball. I'm sorry, go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to say Buck did a great job when he was with the Mets the first time. I liked the way he managed. I thought he worked very well with the players. He's old school, but sometimes, I talk to Mets fans and they say this kind of team needs that. And I always would look towards to an old school manager like that. Now, the problem in this whole situation, and I hate to say this, is I'm not so sure the Mets are smart enough to do something like that. Now, not to take anything away from this guy, I've heard a lot of Carlos Beltran being mentioned. And in fact, he was going to manage the Mets a few years ago, and something came up. I don't know, maybe that whole Astros thing. I don't remember. But Beltran's name was being mentioned a few years ago, and I disagreed with it then just because of his lack of experience. And I don't know how well he would work with, some of the players they have here. So I've heard his name being thrown around a lot. And I again, not to take anything away from him, great guy, great player, obviously. And was very helpful to the Mets when he played with them. I would like to see a proven manager there. And I don't think the Mets are smart enough to get some of those guys. I hate to say it, but I guess time will tell.
Are we playing any baseball games in 2027?
So my prediction is this. I think, again, this lockout is going to happen. I think that it lingers for a long time. Everybody is saying there's going to be no season. And I've learned a long time ago, don't listen to what everybody is saying. I'm contrarian. And again, not that I don't think this is going to happen. I could easily see maybe mid-season them coming to an agreement, people getting desperate, whatever, and maybe having, a 70-game season that starts mid-July and goes to maybe a little deeper into October, and they play a little later. I don't know. Now, to me, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I'm a big hockey fan, and hockey got to a point where the sport was atrocious, and even longtime fans like me stopped watching it because of how bad the game was. And they knew changes had to be made, and they didn't do anything. And then they locked out the entire season. We missed an entire hockey season, and the game came back better than ever, to the point where now, especially in the United States, I don't think hockey's ever been bigger. And this lockout happened 20 years ago now, but I think it really changed the game for the better. So as much as I would really miss baseball next year, if they do lock out for the entire season and positive changes are made because of it, I'll give up a season, to get the game where it should be. What do you think? Now, again, you have a different team that there, with Baltimore, where something that is like this might help you even more. I mean, I'm curious to know what your thoughts about that are too.
I don't believe the owners have the gonads to go lockout for the whole season. I think that's, there's some on the same page with that, but I don't actually believe. I think at some point they are gonna. I think for sure you may see part of the season. This may go into May, April, and things like that. But I don't think they have the gonads to do that, to just lose a whole season as well. I don't think they're gonna get a cap. I don't think the players are gonna go for that. I don't think you're gonna get a salary cap as well. It's funny. What I really find fascinating is the teams that should be worried about the cap are still just performing. The Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, they're not phased at all financially at all. Because if there's a cap, it's going to hurt them. They're just going. It's the other teams. So baseball has a real problem with its finances like that. You mentioned NHL. There's real financial issues in the NHL. They don't really have as much money as baseball has always had. So when they had to do that with the rollback and all that other stuff, I think there were real reasons for that. Baseball, you just can't ever get your house in order. It's just it's weird. There are just haves and have-nots. It's kind of like a microcosm of the country right now. Like there are teams that are doing well, and we're just going to keep buying and it's going to go forward. And you got other teams that just, oh man, we're so worried about, So I don't think you're going to have a strike for a whole season, if you're asking me. We should just
I agree with that. And just the part that I don't get, though, is if I'm a Major League Baseball player, I mean, don't you want to have a chance to win the World Series? Isn't that your goal as a baseball player? Or it should be. I guess that's what ticks me off a little bit, that these guys would be fighting for that, because with a cap, and again, we can have this debate all night as far as whether there should be or shouldn't be, but if there's a cap, you're a baseball player, you have a much better chance of winning a championship. Without that, and if things continue the way they do, you're going to be in a very, very small minority of players that have a chance to win anything. So I would want to be the player that, hey, no matter what team I'm on, whether it's Los Angeles, whether it's New York, whether it's Tampa, whether it's Milwaukee, whether it's Pittsburgh, whatever, I got a chance to win. But right now, it seems like that chance is disappearing more and more.
I don't know why. Well, I know why, but like trading Tarek Subel to the Dodgers is just insanity. It's just that's just a representative. Why on earth, if you're the Tigers, would you trade away a guy like that? Like, you would never do it in football. You never do that. Like, I don't care what like, you're not that far away. So that's different. Like, if you're like if you're like Angels, or you're just way out of it. I mean, you're not that far out of it. You're trading your two best pitchers to a team that's already won it 2 times.
Right.
Do you want to win or not?
Probably going to win it again. But see, football is the perfect model for it, because whether you play in Los Angeles or New York or Green Bay or Buffalo, you got a chance to win. And, Dallas, it doesn't matter whether you're in the big cities or, again, Pittsburgh, anything like that. Baltimore, you have a chance to win in the NFL. And baseball, it's unless a team gets lucky ever, like Toronto, they should have won last year. But if an outlier gets in there every once in a while, that's great. But I don't know. If it's me, and I'm a Major League Baseball player, I want every chance possible to win a championship, no matter where I play.
Yeah, outstanding World Series last year. No question about it. Toronto came about as close as you could come. We're coming up short. Great. I thought it was great on both sides. I was really impressed with both managers, both teams, etc. But football, you mentioned it here. The Bills, new era. I thought that they probably had the worst stadium in the NFL. Now they're in a brand new stadium as well. A new head coach. Joe Brady is now at the helm, even though he's been there as well. Josh Allen now with the new contract. So feeling good for the most part, I think, the Bills. Let's talk about McDermott, too. I was really surprised that they got rid of McDermott. Fans really didn't surprise me. There wasn't a lot of support for him. And then some of this Bill stuff I did listen to. Am I misreading that, or is that accurate? This was a guy who turned the whole thing around, had some success. And they went to the divisional round last year, and really got housed. They really could have been in the AFC title game. So, what was your thought of that? As far, let's start with McDermott and now Joe Brady taking over as head coach.
All right, now I would, not to take the cop out answer here, but I would have been fine either way. Again, McDermott's done great things for this team. He brought them into prominence every football season, it seems like. But they can't take the next step with him. So I really didn't have a problem with them finally, after they didn't take the step this year, kind of compare it to the Knicks. Thibodeau had a few chances, couldn't take him to that next step. They got rid of him, and look what happened this year. Now, I think the Knicks did it right. They brought in somebody from the outside. Again, McDermott was great. And would I have had a problem if he stayed for another season? No. But I was okay with them moving on. Now, the reason they moved on is to get somebody fresh here and to get that person to maybe take the next step. Well, they didn't get anybody fresh. And that's kind of what's got me scratching my head, and a lot of Bills fans around here. It's okay, you got a different guy in there, but it still seems like it's so much same old, same old. And is this really the guy that is going to be the one to take them to the next step? I'm not so sure about that. Now, the one good thing the Bills have going for them is the AFC East, because I'm not sold on the Patriots, only because their schedule is going to be like doubly difficult than it was last year. The Patriots were one of those teams last year that every week I said, okay, this is the week that they lose. This is the week where they show their true colors. This is when they finally fade. And they never did that. They went, to the Super Bowl. But I'm not sold on them again this year. I think they take a step back, and I think the Dolphins and the Jets are not ready for prime time. So, again, I'm not so sold on the Bills either, if you want the truth. I think they're good. I think they have that same capability, and I think they might win the AFC East by default. But, I still see them winning it with maybe 10 wins or something like that, 10-7, maybe 11-6, something along those lines. But their schedule's not that easy either. So, and we say this all the time. How much luck can we have with Josh Allen? He's stayed healthy, and he doesn't miss games. And all it takes is one shot to the head or one shot to the knee, and things change. Now, he's very good at getting away from that, and part of the reason that he's so durable is the way he plays and the way he avoids those type of situations. So with a healthy Josh Allen all season, again, this team is capable of winning the division 10, 11 games, and then maybe they can take those next steps come playoff time. So I wouldn't be surprised with this team either way. I wouldn't be surprised if they missed the playoffs, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won the Super Bowl, or, of course, anything in between. So we shall see. Now, I did get to watch the stadium. It's very difficult to get into it, obviously, and expensive. And, it was like $80 for this preseason game, which I wasn't going to go near that. But I did watch the game, and I was very impressed by the acoustics anyway, from what I heard on TV. That's all I have to go by. But so far, so good, as far as my opinion. It looks like a beautiful stadium. Love the fact that it's grass. And, you'll hear people complain about certain things. And, maybe that went viral about an obstructed view, 2 obstructed views out of 63,000. Some players said the grass wasn't quite ready for prime time yet. But overall, though, I'm hearing a lot of good things about it. I know people that went to it, raved about it. I think everybody's excited about it, and it looked and sounded great, from the one preseason game I watched last week.
Real quick, I want to go back to Joe Brady for a second. Fans weren't happy. A lot of people didn't like the change. Josh Allen's happy about it. Do you think? Is this what he wanted? That would make sense. That was kind of the thing I thought about. The thing that you want in Buffalo is you want Josh Allen to be happy, of course. So you think this is because he doesn't have to change anything, even though there's a head coach. You're going to be doing good for him, right? I mean, he's going to be running the same offense he's been running. You think Allen's happy about this?
I think Josh Allen had a lot to do with that, if you want the truth. And I get that. He's very comfortable with Brady. He's said that. He's shown that. So, again, if the reason they brought in Brady was to make Josh Allen happy and keep him here and excel him, okay, I get that. And again, he could be an amazing coach, that something up his sleeve that we don't see coming. Again, I disagree with it, but yeah, certainly if it's going to make Josh Allen happy, I think it's a good idea. And I think that did play into it, maybe even more than the Bills are saying.
DJ Moore is there. One thing they were lacking really since Stephon Diggs was no longer there with them. Now you have, I think, a number one receiver again. They were kind of hoping that Khalil Shakir would kind of be that guy, but now like you got DJ Moore there. Look, pairing him with Josh Allen, that's going to help him a lot. Now no longer in Chicago. Bills offense, I think Cook is very underrated. Really love Cook. I think the line offensively, not so worried about that. What have you seen so far with DJ Moore? You're a former Terp, DJ Moore.
I thought, I didn't even realize he was a Terp there, but I think that was an excellent choice for the reason you mentioned. They have their number one receiver now. I think he's hitting his prime too. I think, excuse me, last year, great season with the Bears. And the good thing is they didn't pay an overwhelming. I don't have the figures in front of me right now, but it's not like they had a give him a ridiculous contract in order to bring him in. I thought the price was fair. And I think, again, it's the number one receiver. And now you're talking about guys like Shakir. It takes the pressure off of them, and it takes the pressure off, the tight ends there that maybe we're feeling a little bit. So I think not only do they have their number one receiver who's going to produce and play well and be an excellent target for Josh Allen, but now you're taking the pressure off those other guys, and you're going to open them up. Maybe this is the year Keon Coleman, like nobody's paying attention to him because they're paying attention to Moore, or tight end. He knows, he's still pretty fast. He has his quirks and he has his issues, but maybe now we see a guy like him break out, just because the pressure's not on and people aren't paying attention to him, that, DJ Moore is taking that attention away, from players like that. So I think he's going to have that kind of effect. And again, the fact that they got him at a fair price, it seems like, I think it was a genius move, if you ask me.
One of the things with McDermott, I think the reason is we talked about, because everybody knows how good the Bills offense is going to be. You might have the best quarterback in the NFL, etc. Defensively, the problem I think McDermott had was, hey, your side of the ball here isn't quite as good. Look, I think Ed Oliver is a stud, underrated, and I really like Benford, but there's some issues on defense as well. And I think that's one thing that we're looking at. What do you think's happening on defense this year in Buffalo, now that you no longer have McDermott there as a head coach?
Yeah, well, you got a coach that's going to get a chance to prove himself, first of all. But I think this defense is better than people think. The problem that they might run into, though, is youth. There's a lot of young guys there, a lot of guys just getting opportunities now. I mean, some of them look good in the preseason game. I was impressed by, but there's a little bit of inexperience, I think, that may come up to hurt them in the long run if there's going to be problems. And again, especially if the guys like Oliver's had problems staying healthy, and if he has health issues, if Benford or some of those guys get hurt. Cole Bishop really blossomed as a safety last year. If he stays healthy, he could be one of the best safeties in the league. But if he doesn't, they're going to have a lot of inexperience at that position. So that's the only thing that scares me is, how much does the youth and lack of big time experience play in? That's my biggest concern.
Well, I think Benford is a stud. I mean, nobody talks about him. I just ranked him in the top 10. Oliver, I didn't have him in the top 10 this year because of injuries as well, but I've had him in there before. So I think those two guys are really good. But yeah, I think that's if they wind up in that category where they don't make the playoffs or they have an issue, whatever, I think it's definitely that side of the ball because you're going to score. They may have the best offense in the NFL this side of the Rams, I think, in Buffalo. I think they're really, really good. So one more prediction for the Bills. How do you think you said you weren't sure? Not a believer in New England, real quick. I'm a little surprised. Like New England, I think not as good as maybe not as good as last year. I mean, you went to the Super Bowl, but not don't like May or whatever. I mean, they did go out and get what's the receiver? Man, the name just escaped. I knew he was going to escape me. I'm sorry. AJ Brown went out. AJ Brown went out and got AJ Brown in the offseason. So think Bills do win the division easy?
Maybe not easy. I could see him winning it by a game or two, but I think with New England, I mean, coaching, check. Offense, like you said, with the quarterback and wide receivers, check. I think just some of the intangibles, again, not to make excuses because I don't care. If a team makes the Super Bowl, they deserve to be in the Super Bowl. So, people said, hey, New England had a very easy schedule last year, which they did, but they took advantage of it and got to where they needed to go. They just fell short in the big game. I think this year's, they're playing a first place schedule. And so I think that's going to catch up to this team. They're still young in a lot of ways. And I think that more than anything is going to be a tough obstacle for them to overcome. And again, they proved me wrong all last season. I was wrong. I make a lot of predictions in football, a lot of which are correct, but I make a lot of wrong ones too. And every week I was wrong about New England. So they proved me wrong then, could easily do it again now. I just think the schedule's a lot tougher. And
I think Drake May's terrific, though. I really think even he's still being slept on. I love the way he throws football. Excellent touch on the ball as far as man. And the defense is really good. I think their offense isn't going to be as good as Buffalo, though. Their line is not really good.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem. I think that's going to be a problem.
That could be a problem. You're right. And, again, offensively, they're amazing and just, a lot of players in there. Drake May, as you said, nobody's still talking about him. He turned my whole fantasy team around last year. So I'm thankful for him. But, I don't know. I think, again, could they be a playoff team? Could they be the class of the AFC? Sure. I just think, again, the schedule catches up to them a little bit this year.
All right. Let's talk about you, man. You're I call you the grown man of the group. You Dave. I mean, you just, when you speak to you always were you a good student in school? Like in general, I could tell like you were good at speak. Like in general, you don't just like say things like it's always so succinct. Like when you're speaking, it always comes out. It's always like, got a way about the way you speak. It's not just fragmented. Anybody ever say that? Were you a good student in school?
I appreciate that. First of all, that means a lot. Yes, I was a good student. Now I was like I'm a teacher now. So I tell my students, I was like a B student. I was, I have intelligence, but maybe lack common sense. My wife says that to me all the time. How can somebody so smart be so stupid? And she's right. I was well behaved.
That's
all
a wife
that
for
stuff. Yeah, exactly. And she's right. Like I said,
I've been married 20 years. I'm the dumbest guy.
But I actually went to school. I went to a college here about an hour from Buffalo. That's how I moved from Long Island to Buffalo here is I went to a state university in New York school, Geneseo, about an hour from here. And I actually went for radio and was going to be a sportscaster. I was the play-by-play guy for the hockey team at Geneseo for a couple of years and did radio. And even after I graduated, I did, I was a DJ for a few years, but, gradually the pay and I didn't feel like moving around the whole country for it. So, So I guess if people say I have the speaking part of that, I learned that from school and from some radio experience and kind of lost my Long Island accent because of that. So I guess, this is natural. Even, my wife doesn't spend a lot of time watching, my podcast and stuff, but she heard me and she said, you're a natural at that, and it's just because I have the experience, I guess. And I enjoy doing this very much. And I'm a teacher. So I'm one of the few people that actually likes talking in public. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I just enjoy that.
You also you mentioned that you did radio and the whole path, and one of the names, this is called Ravori Sports. One of the names I told around with 2022 when I started it was failed media, because a lot of us had that same path. I studied radio, TV, cop, and stayed a long time ago, and it was so difficult to get a job in some cases. That's why you see a lot of these anchors come from. I've noticed they come from wealthy families, the ones that are a success. Why? Because they can work for no money
right.
for years. Whereas like once I actually had a family, I was like, at that point, it's like I can't keep, interning, and I had an intern at a rate. I actually got corporate world and all that other stuff. I can't keep working for no money for the possibility that something may happen as well. Did you? What do you think of radio nowadays? In terms of that, is it still something as well. I talk to a lot of guys my age and older and things like that. They don't even listen to radio in the numbers like they did, or what you would think in some cases. What do you think of it now?
See, I still listen to radio all the time. I was having this conversation with somebody recently. When I was younger and following, like especially the Islanders. Now, Mets games were and football obviously was always on TV. But growing up an Islanders fan, they didn't put the home games on regular TV. You had to have cable. And when I first started following them, we didn't have cable. So the only way I could do that is by listening, and then I had a hobby where, I learned to pick up stations from Long Island. I knew that when the sun went down, I could pick up stations from halfway across the country. I'd listen to WBAL in Baltimore, KDKA in Pittsburgh, and, Chicago. So I can get as far as St. Louis or Atlanta. So I really enjoyed listening to the other announcers from those locations, and from different areas besides mine. And, then I started listening with baseball, the same thing. And even now, that I guess, some of us older guys here, I guess this is true for, I'm on summer vacation here, and there's a lot of times I'll just go to bed and listen to a baseball game as I fall asleep. And, now that I can't stay up so late anymore, I'll watch, 3/4 of a basketball game, for example, and then go to bed and listen to the last part of it. So I still love that. And, I listen to, I have XM radio, so I can get, the national broadcasts of, whatever sport I want. There's a basketball channel, there's a hockey channel, baseball, whatever. So I don't particularly care for the local, Buffalo, only because it's a little narrow-minded. If it's not the Bills, it doesn't mean anything. But like, I still love to listen to, some of these national programs. I'm not big on the controversial yelling and screaming guys. I never appreciated that. Give me information. Tell me something I don't know. Help me learn something that I didn't think of, perhaps. So I still love radio, and again, now we're pretty much in an age where I can pretty much watch whatever game I want to watch. But I still love, if I'm in the car and at night, by myself, I'll put a game on. If I'm going to bed, I'll put a game on a lot of the time. So I still love radio, and I always will.
I used to. It's funny you mentioned that. Like, for those of you, some people like 17 might be watching it. Like when you at nighttime, right? The big stations, the 50,000 watt stations, like you couldn't hear like the smaller local ones. They would kind of fade out of the radio, but you could hear the big one. That's when I started listening to WFAN, right? When I was younger, because that was really the only sports station for the first one for a while. Like if it was like on a major 24-hour day, it was the first one. The fan in New York was the first one as well. So it was. I've always done that. Podcasting. So we talked about it. You've been teaming up with Jamie now for the last couple years as well. Where do you see that going for you as well? You guys seem to be having a good time, and when you're podcasting, talking about the New York teams there.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy this, and again, Adam on our network here, he's the one that got me into it. I'll make a long story short. I wanted to start a Twitter account, my Joe Dalio Sports account here. This was about 4 years ago, and I said, it'd just be interesting to start a little Twitter, put my little 2-cent things in there, and started spreading out and following people to, get some followers, get some attention. And I saw him, and I said, a nice Pittsburgh guy here. And he actually reached out to me and said, hey, I'm just starting this, podcast thing. We're trying to get some different points of view from around the country. I see you're a Mets fan and you're from New York, and if you'd be interested in joining, let me know. And so I did. And we really hit it off. I mean, he had a show on. I think I was on with him for like 2 hours plus. We were talking. And, from there, meeting different people, meeting you, meeting Jamie, meeting, other people on this, on the network here. And, it just came to be that, Adam actually suggested, hey, you two get along well on our shows. You're in Western New York. You're both Bills fans. Why don't you do a show about that? And then we did that. It was, went pretty well. And, same thing. Well, hey, you're a Mets fan. He's a Yankee fan. Why don't you do a baseball one? So, so we did that. And I love doing it. It's like, I would love to do it more. But again, talking about the corporate world, like you did, it's like, unfortunately with families and jobs, it's not always easy, to spend the time. And, as I've gotten older, my ability to stay up late has disappeared. But really, as far as podcasting, I like I said, things like this, I love, and I'd like to continue, doing the ones that I'm doing, and getting on some of these other ones when I can. And maybe, I guess if I was to expand a little bit, my only complaint on this network here a lot is I don't hear enough basketball. I don't hear enough hockey. So maybe doing something about that down the road.
I agree with you about Adam. I think Adam, believe it or not, came in at a big. He doesn't realize the important time in my life. I was kind of discouraged on several fronts. I was kind of discouraged as well on that thing. I had some personal issues at the time, and so I kind of came in at a time where it wasn't going great for me. And I appreciate Adam. Like I kind of felt more encouraged at that time. I think that's really awesome. He kept me because I was wondering, what am I even doing here? It's like I kept, and then I met with you guys, and like the channel has really grown, and I got to meet more people, and it really was, his timing was really good with that. Jamie is a very interesting character. I've told you off camera. I've told him the respect that I have for him and his hard work as well. What do you think? Does Jamie have a career as a writer? I think that's the thing he does best. I think in terms of everything else, I think his articles are very, very good. He spends a lot of time writing. Yeah,
if you want the truth, I think he already does. Because it seems like from when we first met a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, to now, he's definitely expanded, and he can write about anything. I mean, he writes excellent football articles, obviously, college football. I've seen, baseball as well. So he's definitely expanded. He's talked about getting opportunities to do like PA announcing at his alma mater in Rochester there. So I definitely respect, A, his writing, B, his sports knowledge. We talked about it off stage, the age of my kids, but yet he knows more about sports history than I do, So I definitely think
he's definitely a grinder. I always just, and that's just a Charles quality that I have in general, because I don't in a lot of ways consider myself the smartest guy in the world, but I'm gonna get up off the ground and I'm gonna grind. And I see a lot of that with Jamie. That's why I try and be encouraging to Jamie and Dylan, especially, like, because they're really pushing hard. I really like to see good things happen in their careers as far as that goes as well, because they really push hard.
I agree, and again, he's already taken strides, and you say make a career out of it. And I think he's there now. It's just, let's see how far he can expand that and even and go further. But yeah, I mean, they're smart, they're grinders, and they're just good people, and people say, well, it's you two are different. You're older, he's younger, and again, different personalities there. But I think it makes things interesting. And not again, like we said too, we kind of make it boring because we rarely disagree. We think along the same lines, even though we like some different teams. But I just I enjoy. You're kind of like Kornheiser and Wilbon.
a little bit when I kind of see like you just that's kind of the vibe I get with you guys. You guys not exactly the same in areas, but you're just different enough when I'm listening to you guys. You make the same point very differently at times. You know,
okay,
when I've watched you, when I watched your show, that like you different delivery for sure. The way y'all talk.
I think that's a fair statement. That's a fair statement. But again, when we did a couple of open mic shows or whatever, together, and I respected him then. And when they asked me to work with him and do that show, I jumped at it. I said, yeah, definitely. I would look forward to this. And, now it's been 3 years for both football and baseball. I believe we're going to be starting season 4, in a couple of weeks with the Bills show. So I can't believe how fast, time has gone here, and that we're actually talking about season 4 already.
Yeah, man. All right. Tell the people where they can continue to find this. I told y'all this was a grown folk conversation, as we used to say, like grown folk conversation. Go ahead.
Thank you. I Joe Dalio Sports on Twitter X, and I'm a little too inconsistent with that. Sometimes I'm loading it up with stuff, and sometimes I ignore it. But I think you could find some interesting. I try to keep it like I'm big into stats and statistical things. So, if you're looking for some of those gems every once in a while, you can find me there at Joe Dalio Sports on Twitter X. Also, again, we're going to be starting, Jamie and I, as we mentioned, our Buffalo Sports Conversation Room, starting probably a week before the regular season starts, season 4. We have our baseball show during that. Hopefully we'll have one next year. And again, sometimes I pop my head in there on open mic when I can stay awake and enjoying that. So that's where you can find me here. And again, please know how much I appreciate this conversation and you having me on here today.
Well, awesome stuff. And thank you all for watching. And you right there watching right there, definitely hit the like button, subscribe button, Joe Dalio Sports. Definitely go to his Twitter page and the Ravori Sports podcast on all of our platforms, and Driving to the Top Productions, where you can see us both there as well. And some of y'all watching this channel, I'm sure y'all recognize him. A lot of his stuff is on our channel as well, Ravori Sports Podcast. Thank you guys for watching. You have a great rest of your day.